Well, folks, I'm delighted to welcome to the Skeptic Zone a man I've known for many years, almost 2 decades, I think. We've had some fun adventures together with dinosaurs and skepticism and all sorts of things. It's Associate Professor Paul Willis. Hello, Paul.
G'day, Richard. How you doing, mate?
You know what? During this crazy time of the lockdown and the shut up and the get lost, I'm not doing too bad. I can't remember the last time I had a sniffle or a cold or a cough or anything like that.
Yeah, and might I say, it looks like the pair of us are growing old disgracefully. It's wonderful to see.
Speak for yourself. In the
I can hear an edit.
Where you maybe in the past, folks, we've had some funny times, Paul and I, because occasionally, Paul, when you lived in Sydney, we would be confused for each other. I think when we both had darker hair.
Yeah, yeah. When we were younger people, I'm not sure who was whose doppelganger, but we were mistaken on several occasions.
Well, the strangest one to me was the phone rang here one day, and I picked it up and I said hello, and the voice on the other end said, "Is that you, Paul Willis?" That was that was the
Yeah.
strangest one. Paul, also known as Paleo Paul, let's talk about your latest series of videos and your outlets for what you love to do, which is, of course, hunting for dinosaurs. Palaeo Pictures. You've got a new weekly series with dinosaur news.
It's more a regular series, or should I say irregular series.
Right.
As I get enough material together to put out an episode, then I'll put out an episode. The idea is look, coronavirus and the whole lockdown really messed about with the whole business model for Palaeo Pictures.
Yeah.
We couldn't go out and get sponsors. We couldn't go out and do filming. We couldn't do anything. So we more or less put Palaeo Pictures into hibernation. But then it dawned on me that even in hibernation, there's still something we can do to build brand identity.
Right.
I'm still building the presence of Palaeo Pictures on the social media sites, and we're getting a lot of traction, particularly on Instagram. And the contributions to social media actually consist of posting up stories from paleontology as they come to my attention. And I thought, well, it's not going to be that much effort to be able to string a group of those together and put out a bulletin of paleo news, so that people can, in one short little vodcast, are able to catch up on the latest and greatest in paleontology and dinosaurs and fossils and stories from the past presented to you in the present.
It sounds pretty good. I've been enjoying the episodes you've putting up so far. You've put up so far. Now let's talk about a few of the news items which really caught my attention. A 100 million year old.
I was going to say I wouldn't bother with 100-year-old.
A 100 million.
Carbon dated. It's too young.
It is. It is. Well, this one is bizarre, like a lot of ancient creatures are to us, I guess. A spider scorpion.
Yeah,
Wow.
really weird creature. This one came from amber in Burma, and this deposit or Myanmar. This amber deposit has just been producing stunning fossils, including hatchling dinosaur birds and all sorts of weird things.
Wow.
Complete geckos and what have you. And one of the creatures that came out, and this amber's about 100 million years old, as you said,
Yeah.
and they've got multiple specimens of it, is what looks like a cross between a spider and a scorpion. They are both in the same group, and one evolved from the other. And so you've got what looks like a sort of elongate spider with a long, thin, whip-like tail. And these spider scorpions are thought to date back a couple of 100 million years prior to this find.
Wow.
So, that group probably goes back to about 300 million years ago. But if you're an arachnophobe, don't watch that episode, because it is truly terrifying to look in the glorious detail of this particular creature.
And to think this group of creatures or what have you were on the planet for such a huge length of time before being extinct or dying out or evolving or whatever. But for countless eons, there were spider scorpions and creatures like that.
Well, exactly. I mean, in a sense, you're talking about a missing link. You're talking about a representative of a group that's not a fully fledged spider. It's not a fully fledged scorpion. It is a representative of the transition between those two groups.
There's got to be a movie now. Someone's going to listen to this and say, the next movie is going to be the Spider Scorpion movie.
Yeah. Oh, no, even better, because it's preserved in amber. Some clueless person will want to reconstruct it from the DNA and probably confuse the DNA with, I don't know, elephant DNA or something. So we end up with giant spider scorpions.
Well, I think Jurassic Park lost a lot of opportunity. They could have had creatures from all sorts of epochs and eras. And what about a giant wombat, Jurassic Park? Let's have the giant wombat back again. Now,
we're more likely to do that because we can actually get DNA, theoretically. We could get DNA either for the larger species of the wombats that lived in the couple of tens of thousands of years ago,
right?
Or the group called the diprotodontids, which are often described as massive wombats, the largest marsupials that have ever lived.
Yeah, I've seen
the chances of getting DNA out of amber, 100 million years old, is zero.
Well, I mean, it makes for fun movies anyway. One of our reporters on the Skeptic Zone, Trish Hahn, one of her favorite movies is the original Jurassic Park, and I saw it at her place about a year or two back, and wow, it was a fabulous nostalgia trip. It really is.
And some of the wonderful mistakes in it. I mean, they misspelt Stegosaurus at one stage. They had a vial when Nedry goes in to steal the specimens of embryos. One of the species of dinosaur is the thing, I think it's Acrocanthosaurus. And at the time, it was only known from a couple of lumbar vertebrae of an adult.
Right.
So the only way you could identify the embryos of Acrocanthosaurus would be to grow one to adulthood, kill it, strip it down, and identify that the lumbar vertebrae were the same thing. And then you could say, yes, that was Acrocanthosaurus.
Oh, Paul, you're spoiling the movie magic, David.
Oh, look, technically speaking, I'm not a pedant.
No. I know, I understand completely. No, I love all those movies. I put my brain on hold. It's having a lot of fun. But we're talking about ancient Australian animals here. Let's go even further back. Another news item that you covered in the series was a discovery of a new dinosaur in Victoria, which is particularly interesting when it links up to other dinosaur species in the southern hemisphere. And amazingly enough, this thing could have lived in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, this is one of the the meat-eating dinosaurs. You know, when you say the theropods or the meat-eating dinosaurs, everyone thinks of Tyrannosaurus or Allosaurus. You know, the big meat eaters, but the theropods are a really diverse group. There's a lot of weird and strange lineages. And one of those strange lineages has just been identified from a neck bone found in Victoria. Again, it's about 100 million years old. And the only thing like it is from similar age deposits in Madagascar. Now, at the time, Australia was so far south that that animal would have been living within the Antarctic Circle. So you immediately we're learning a heck of a lot just simply by the finding and identification of that one single neck bone, that this strange group of theropods were present across Gondwana, the giant southern continent, but also that they were living in environments that we don't expect many animals to be living in today.
Yeah.
Although it would have probably been warmer below the Antarctic Circle
Right.
100 million years ago, it wouldn't have been that much warmer. It would still be pretty harsh conditions to make a living in. So it really opens out our whole understanding of the abilities of these creatures to live in a number of harsh environments.
Now, of course, you know what you're talking about, especially in this situation, because you've been down to the Antarctic quite a few times.
Yeah, I've been down, I think it's 11 times
Oof.
now. I was a expert tour guide with Aurora Expeditions. Specifically, my job was to introduce the tourists to the fossil deposits on the Antarctic Peninsula. And there are spectacular fossil deposits there because they haven't been picked over by people.
Yeah.
Anywhere else in the world, if you've got, well, there's a couple of factors that are in your favor in Antarctica. Everywhere else in the world where there have been spectacular fossil deposits, because they're easier to get to and there's people around, many of them have been picked clean. But also in Antarctica, there's no soil, there's no vegetation. So you can see the bedrock in most places that you go to. If there's no snow or ice, and surprisingly large areas of the Antarctic Peninsula, particularly on the eastern side where the fossils are completely bare of snow and ice, you see the bedrock, you see the fossils.
Wow.
And it's and the icing on the cake is one set of deposits that produce fossils in Antarctica span the period of time dinosaurs disappeared. A sequence of beds that date from about 70 million years down to about 55 million years ago.
That covers it.
And the extinction is almost slap bang in the middle of that period.
We're talking about 65 to 66 million years ago?
65.5, depends on the day of the week.
Yeah.
And there are places in Antarctica where you, on Seymour Island, where you can literally walk across an ancient seabed, cram full of fossils, and then there's a line in the dirt, and the fossils disappear.
Wow.
And that line in the dirt is the KT extinction.
I keep threatening to come with you on your next expedition. I'm sure we can share a cabin, Paul. I'm sure that wouldn't be any problem at all.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that whole venture's going to go post-COVID, but it would be nice to get back down there.
Finally, some news about T-Rex and the fact that the animal itself seemed to change quite a bit during its own lifespan. Yeah,
look, we've known for some time that T-Rex was quite different as a juvenile in form as to what it was like when it was an adult. And this had been quantified into a growth curve a couple of times in the past. But what happened, and this was only last week that this was published, is some researchers went back and looked at all 44 specimens that are known for Tyrannosaurus rex. They measured something like 1,875 features of those specimens, and then they plugged that in to produce a growth curve. So we know pretty accurately how long they lived, when their growth spurts were, the periods of growth. So you've got a juvenile, you've got a sub-adult, you've got an adult. There's actually 5 periods of growth that they've identified. And so we can actually track how these things changed as they grew. And as a young creature, they would have the most obvious differences were they would tend to have a narrow and relatively shallow skull. And as they got older, the skull got deeper and broader, and they lost teeth.
Well, that makes sense.
The number of teeth decreased as they grew older. There are many other differences, but the fact that we've now got this really detailed report as to how Tyrannosaurus changed throughout its life, really an insight into their biology.
It's fascinating. Do we have a decent understanding of what a life expectancy for a T-Rex would be?
About 28 years. About 28 years. And most of the growth is concentrated into a period from about, I think it's about 7 years old to about 15. It's not a constant flatline growth. It's almost exponential, and then it tapers off. And that the main growth period is right in the middle there.
Wow, so much to find out. And folks, the only reason I knew about these items we've been discussing today is I took the time and I watched the first 3 episodes of Palaeo Pictures, the dinosaur, the news updates, the Dino updates, the Paleo updates, Palaeo Pictures News it's called. Where can people see that for themselves, Paul?
We've got a YouTube channel. Just look up Paleo News or Palaeo Pictures. And also we are putting them out as a Instagram TV series, which you can view through Palaeo Pictures on Instagram. And if I can just give a shout out, because Palaeo Pictures as a business, pretty unusual beast, because not only are we a documentary production company, but we also are a research company.
Right.
And we aim to fund the research that we make the documentaries about. It's a bit of an unusual beast. And if it wasn't for a number of people in the skeptic community in Australia who came on board as shareholders really early on, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I'm not going to embarrass anyone by naming names, but a big shout out to all of those guys who got behind us. And if anybody else is interested in supporting our activities, we have got a Patreon account.
Right.
And if you want to support the future of paleontology and telling the world the wonders of the mysteries from the past, then hop onto our Patreon account and look at becoming a patron for Palaeo Pictures.
Folks, you can support the future of the past. How about that?
That's the message.
You like it? You can have it. Well, Paul Willis, Associate Professor Paul Willis, always a pleasure to have you on the Skeptic Zone. You've been my guest on the show quite a few times. You even have your own theme music, which is quite an honor. We look forward, and I look forward especially myself, to watching each new episode of Palaeo Pictures News as it comes online. But for now, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Richard. You take care.